Hello, in this video I am going to write some LINQ queries, and I'm going to write the same LINQ queries or the same queries that we did back in the SQL demo. But I'm going to do a little bit more than that too. I'm going to put a data grid control here, and so we can actually see the results of our query. So this control right here, this is a data grid view. It is a very cool control, very useful, and we can just do our LINQ queries and stuff the results right into that data grid so we can see that our queries worked. And let's go revisit our database schema, the layout for our database. I have implemented the titles table, the publishers table, and the platforms table. So I have made collections of objects that store all this stuff, and I'm going to perform the LINQ queries on these objects, just like we did the SQL operations on the database tables. So just remember that our every software title has a publisher ID, and that publisher ID allows us to look up the associated publisher in the publishers table. And then we've got a platforms table, and every platform has an ID. So every software title knows what platform it's published for, and we can use that platform to look up the associated platform over here in the platforms table. So we've got two foreign keys in the titles table. So we can link the titles to the publishers, and we can link the titles to the platform that title plays on. And I haven't bothered to do the inventory and the stores. So let's go back over to the code and or my project here, and let's just go down to the bottom here and see what we've got. So in my GameStop demo, okay, here we go. So let me zoom out just a little bit. So I've created a class called software title, and these public properties are the fields of a software title. So a software title has an ID, a title, a publisher, a rating, a platform, a release year, and a price. In our database, we had called this thing the title. That actually created a problem because you can't have a class that have a property and the two things have the same name. So if I had named this thing title, it would actually break because I guess there's some restriction that a class can't have a public property with the same name. So I just had to change this to software title. And then I have a public constructor that makes this object. So this class will wrap or encapsulate one row, one record from our software titles database or group of data. I also have the publisher information here. I've created a class to encapsulate a publisher. Publisher has an ID number, address information, and that's about it. And then a public constructor so we can make publishers. So what I've had to do is make classes that kind of wrap the data that we would have in the tables. Now, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so tedious. Yes, it's horrible. It's really horrible. You are absolutely correct. It is tedious and slow and horrible and miserable to make all of these objects. However, if you have a real database, you can connect to it, and Visual Studio's Entity Mapper will go out and it will make all of these objects for you. So it's really, really cool, really useful, and time-saving. And then we also have a class to encapsulate one record in our platform table. Or our tables are really just lists of collections, or other collections that contain these objects. So we have what we've done is I've made here a class for wrap a software title, a class to wrap a publisher, and a class to wrap platform information. And platform is like Xbox, PlayStation 4, Wii U, that stuff. So I'm going to collapse these now just so we don't see them, right? That's what these little clicky boxes do on the left. I'm just going to collapse that so they're not taking up room. Now, what have I done here? I have gone in and I have built, I've added the code to create or reconstitute all of the data that was in the database. So way up here at the top, I have made three lists: a list of publishers, a list of software titles, and a list of platforms. And then in the constructor, I am calling the functions to populate all that. I don't need all that space. There you go. So there's the create titles function, just dumps all the info into the software titles table. The publishers, create publishers, that just dumps all the information into the publishers list. And this dumps all the info into the platform list. So the whole point of this is just to show you that there was some setup work I had to do to populate these lists. But now that once these lists are populated, then I can perform LINQ queries on them. So hopefully that makes some sense to you. So in this example, we're going to be doing LINQ queries on these objects in memory, but we could also be doing LINQ queries on an XML file or against a database, because that's one of the powers of LINQ. It's one technology to access or to perform CRUD operations on many different types of data sources. So the first query, let's see, was find the oldest game, right? So let's go back to our schema here, and you can see that the software title has a release date field in it. I think I called it release year in the C# program, but we don't have to do any joins here. All the info we need is just in the titles table. So that's a nice simple query. So what I'm going to do is go to my form here, and I'll pull up my toolbox. And then what I'll do is I'll just throw a button on here. Let's call it find oldest or something. And I'll double click on that. So now what we want to do is write a query that's going to find us the oldest game. So what we want to do is select out the titles and sort them by year, and then just take one of them, because we don't want all of them. We just want the just one. So let's write a query here. So let's give ourselves a result set, var result. And we're using var because that's the data type that you use to store the result set returned by a LINQ query. And that means let the compiler infer the type from the context. So how does a LINQ query start? Well, it starts with from. And we have to say what tape or what collection we want to select out of. And we also need our little loop variable. So because I'm selecting from the software titles table, I'll just call the thing st, software title. From st in, did I just call it titles? Okay, titles. Now if I do select t, st, there we go. That's going to select out all the titles. And let's just show you what we're going to do with this result set. So you can see it's going to return us an IEnumerable of software titles. Let's take this result set and we're going to stick it in our DataGrid view. So there's our DataGrid view 1 dot. Now the DataGrid view has a data source property that we can assign a list to, equals result. Now this took me a while to figure out. It doesn't break, but it doesn't give you what you want. So let's just try this and see what happens. So I'm going to run this and then click on the button, and oh look, nothing happens. This was a weird one. The data source, it says that it is it's an object here, but apparently I cannot assign an this is an interface. IEnumerable is an interface, and this is an object. Apparently that association doesn't quite, whatever typecasting it's doing doesn't quite work. However, if you say toList, that will work also, and now it will actually display the data source. So watch what happens when I run this. There we go. There's all our data. So we pulled out the entire software titles table. That's not what we want. We want to find the oldest one, right? So let's go back to our LINQ query and modify it so that we actually just get the info that we want. So how do we sort these things? By their release year. And if I go down to the software title and expand that, you can see it. So every software title has a release year. Let's order them by release year. Order by. Now order by is one word in LINQ. Order by ST's release year. There we go. And now let's run that and see what happens. Okay, so now there you can see we got 2003 going up to 2015. So they're all sorted by release year. All right. Now I could also say ascending. You can see that's recognized by the IntelliSense, and I can also say descending. So I guess we wanted ascending. I guess ascending is the default one, but we could specify it explicitly if we wanted to. Now we don't want all of them, right? Maybe we just want the oldest one. So let's just put a take clause around this whole thing and limit the number of records we get back. So let's just say take 5 arbitrarily. I guess that's the 5 oldest, but we could say take 1 if we just want the oldest one. So let's run that. And you can see now we just get the oldest 5 records. So that's good. That's good. Okay, so now let's make this a little more complicated. What if we wanted, right when we select ST, we're selecting all of the fields in that software title. Maybe we just want the name and the release year. Maybe we just want those 2 things. So instead of selecting the entire object, what we need to do is select a new, and then inside of the curly braces, we're going to specify the fields that we want. And we'll specify st dot, it's called title, and st dot release year. So now what we're doing is we're making a new object on the fly that has a title and a release year field. And now let's go, if you hover over that, it says an I enumerable of something, I don't know. And it says an anonymous type, right? So we don't, the compiler is going to define this object for us, and this is going to, the results that will contain a list of this type, which was defined by the compiler. That's why we need var, because we don't know that this thing doesn't have a name. All right, so now let's run this and see what that does. There we go. So now we have just the title and the release year of the we're just pulling out those 2 fields from our record. Okay. Let's find the most expensive game. Well, that's an easy one. Okay, so let's throw on another button, and let's sort them by, we'll say, price, or most expensive, or something like that. Most expensive. All right, and I'll make the button a little bit wider. All right, double click on the button to get the handler, and we'll copy this line down here to populate our data source. And now let's do another LINQ query here. Var result. All right, so what comes first? The from statement. From, I'll call it ST and titles, or it could be T and titles, that would work too. And then what do I want to do? I want to sort them by price, order by ST dot price. Now I want to order them, I want the most expensive one, so I want to order them descending. And then I have to have select, and now I can either select the entire row, or I can select what fields I want to select out. So let's select the guys, or the software titles, title, and the price. And now we don't want the entire table. We just want to take a few records off the top. So let's just go wrap this whole thing in parentheses and say dot take, take 1 or something. That'll give us the most expensive software title, and then we'll take our result set and we'll assign it into the DataGrid's data source. And let's run that. There we go. So Call of Duty 59.99. That is in fact the correct answer. Ding 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 ding. All right, awesome, it worked. Okay, let's try another one here. So games rated T for teen. All right, well this is going to get interesting here. How are we going to do this? I'm just like the wheels, the hamster wheel in my brain is spinning with ways we could use, what we could do with this one. So let's go populate this combo box in our constructor. Let's pop over to our constructor here. And if I go up to my constructor, way up top here, let's populate our combo box. Now let's see what we've got here. The question is, how do we select out the distinct elements from a collection? Just for the sake of exploration here, let me try this. Titles dot, let's see what's in there. You can see that there's actually a function called distinct that is built into the list class. So let's go see if we can write a query that populates our combo box. So let's do a LINQ query here. var result equals from, then we want to pull out all our software titles, right? st in titles, select the rating, st's rating. Right now we want distinct ratings, right? So how do we do that? Let's put parentheses around this and say dot distinct, and that will just filter out the duplicates. So pretty handy there. And now what do we want to do? Well, we want to put the result set into our combo box. So let's see how we can do that. So to do that, we need to, the combo box has an array called items. There's items. So we want to set the items in the combo box. So how do we get the results to be an array? Dot, do we have a to array in here? Oh my gosh, it's incredible, right? And then let me call this results. And all right, so maybe I can't, I bet I can't reassign the array directly, but I bet I can add things to it. Well, this is getting interesting. So items has an add range function, which allows you to dump in another array. You see it takes an array of objects. So now watch this. If I put in the results dot to array, you would think that that would work. But let's look at what happens. It says we cannot convert from a character array to an object array. So even though characters are technically objects, I think what this thing is getting at is that it wants an array of reference types and not an array of value types. And characters are value types. So let's try to just outsmart this thing here. Instead of returning the rating as a character, you can see if I hover over that, it's a character. Let's return it as a string. Dot to string. So now the results will contain a list of strings, and now it's happy. I mean, that's kind of really crazy nitpicky, but it worked. Okay, so the trick was there. It had to be an array of reference types, and strings are reference types, characters are not. So let's just run this now and see what we get. So now, oh look, I've got E and T. Those are the two ratings in my in my database. All right, cool. So that's populating the combo box. Populating the combo box. So now that we've got our combo box selected, let's go back to that onClick event, or the index changed event for that combo box. And now in here we can do our LINQ query. So let's grab our line that brings in the results set. And now what we want to do is just filter out the software titles based on the rating. var results equals. Now you should be able to hear this in your head. You should know where this is going. From st in titles. There we go. And I'm just using st for software titles. Okay. Now what do I want to do? I want to. Now I need to filter. I need a where clause. So we'll say where the software titles rating is equal to the whatever is selected in the combo box. So how do we get that? Well, the combo box has got that array called items, and the combo box knows which index is currently selected. So maybe just to keep this a little bit cleaner, let me do it up here. I'm going to go get out the rating. So let me make a string here called rating. And what is that equal to? It's going to be equal to the ComboBox1 dot. Do we have selected text? Let's try that and see what that does for us. There's also a selected index, so we could actually go into the items at the selected index and see if that gets us what we want. So let's just run this, change the selection, and see what we get in the rating here. So if I select T, what do I get in the rating? So I got nothing. So that's not good. So let's get it a different way. ComboBox1.items square brackets ComboBox1.selected index. Let's start. We had selected item. Maybe that would have worked too. And what is that going to return us? It says cannot convert an object to a string. Okay, so this array in the combo box could contain anything, and we want it to be a string. So we know it's a string because we put the string in there. So let's just cast it. Or we could also say as string. That would be the kind of C# kind of compliant way to do it, as string. So let's do that. And let's see if what that does for us. So the selected index is 1, and let's look in the item. Can we hover over items here and see what's in there? Not really, but I'll step through with the debugger, and the rating is now T. We can see in the debugger that rating is storing T as a string. Okay, so do we want to convert that to a character? I don't know. It makes me really wish that down here when I defined my software title that I had made this a string and not a character. I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess since it's a single letter, to me that was a character. All right, but now that we've got the rating that was selected, let's go find the software titles that have that rating. So I've got select ST. Now, what's going wrong here? Well, this is a character and this thing is a string, so we need to somehow convert this thing. We can either convert the string to a character or the character to a string. Let's convert the character to a string. There you go. So this thing up here is a string and this thing is a character, so we've got to just make sure they're the same type. So let's see if that works. And I will select T and let's run it. And there we go. All the games came back, have T. Let's select E. I'm going to get rid of these breakpoints. And now we got games rated E. Okay, so pretty cool. I like combo boxes. Combo boxes are pretty neat, but you do have to pre-populate them. And so we're using a LINQ query to populate it, but we're also using a LINQ query once somebody changes the selected index. So I don't know, pretty cool. So let's keep working on this. Now I'm going to add another combo box. I'll be able to, let's filter them by publisher. And when we select games by publisher, then we're going to have to do a join. So they'll be kind of, that'll be the educational takeaway from this. Let me make another combo box, and I'll put in here by publisher, and I'll double click on this to get the selected index changed. And then let me go up here and to the constructor, and what I'm going to do is pre-populate the publishers. So instead of selecting, so what am I going to do? I'm selecting the names out of the publishers table, right? So how do I do that? Now the publishers are already distinct. Like Sony is only in there once. Electronic Arts is only in there once. So it's from, let's call it P and publishers. select new, let's just get the name out, p dot, oh, I need my curly braces, p dot name, semicolon, and oh, I already have something called results, so let me, I don't need that twice. And why is it griping at me from P and publishers? Oh, you know why? Because I bet, this is really interesting. Results was already defined based on whatever this is, so I can't reuse results. It's returning a different type of object. So I'm going to have to call this like, I'll call it like pubs or something like that for publisher names. Right? So there's an example of var doesn't mean you can change the type. Because this thing is returning an IEnumerable of chars, and this thing is going to return an IEnumerable of strings. And so now, if we run this, oh, you know what? I just see I made a mistake. I forgot to change the combo box right there. Let's run it again. There we go. So there's our publisher. You can see name equals Ubisoft. So why did we get name equals Ubisoft? That's interesting. Let me investigate. Well, my thought is here, what if I just do that? I think what's going on there is I'm dumping an entire object into the data grid. I think the data grid view is getting confused. So let me run that and see. I think that'll fix my problem. Publisher, there we go. There's our publisher. All right. Okay, so let's go back to our form here, and down at the bottom, there's our selected index changed. Okay, so now we want to select publishers. Select by publisher. All right, so what I need to do now, this is where the join comes in, which means I'm going to have two little loop variables, and I'm going to have to specify the fields that I want to join on. So let me make a result set here, var results equal. Okay, so then I have to have my first, my from, I'll call it st and software titles and titles. There we go. Now what do I need to do? Now I need my join. So I need join loop variable on, and then the other table. So join, and what I'll call the other thing, p, join on the publishers table, join p in publishers. There we go. Okay, and now I need to specify the fields that I'm going to join on. So what am I going to do? Let's go to our schema, and you'll see that the publisher ID here, the publisher field matches up with the ID field in the publishers table. So titles.publisher equals publishers.id. That's how that works. Titles.publisher equals publishers.id. On st.publisher. Now, it's a join, so I don't use the double equal. That would be an error. Let's just see if it works or doesn't work. Equals p dot. See, it's all messed up now. Equals p dot id. So now I've joined. I'm matching up the corresponding rows and going through the software titles, and I'm matching each one up with the corresponding publisher information. And now what I want to do is I need a where clause to find all of the records where the publisher name is equal to whatever is in the dropdown. That's why I have to do the join, because I'm trying to look these things up by publisher name, but that's not in the titles table. So I've got to join these two tables together and then filter on the name field in the publishers. They'll filter it on publishers.name. So let's so we need a where clause. Where st, not st. It's the name in the publishers table. p.name. Now I can use a double equal here because this is not inside of a where clause. Or it's not inside of a join, sorry. Double equal is fine in a where clause. If you're doing a join, then it's equals. Now how do I get the whatever is selected in the publisher's combo box? Let me just do combo box 2 dot items square brackets, combo box 2. There's got to be a better way to do this. Selected index. I bet selected item text might have worked. Okay, and now finally, at the very end, I need my select, right? Normally when you do SQL, select comes first and LINQ it comes last. Select, and then what do I want to pick? Let me just pick the name and the publisher. So I'm going to pick the name of, oh, I guess is it called the title? The title from the software titles table, and I'm going to pick the name from the publishers table. Semicolon. And then why is this? Oh, it's going to give me the whole gripey thing about this thing is an object and this thing is a string. If I just do toString, does that work? I guess so. And then let's finally put the result into our data grid. So that's kind of a large, big honking query there. So there's a join, right? So we have to say what table we want to join on, and then what fields are we associating. And then finally we'll filter out the ones that we want. So this is where the publisher's name is equal to whatever's selected in the combo box, and then just select the title from the title table and the name from the publisher table. So let's run that and see if that works. And Microsoft. Nothing from Microsoft? Nintendo USA? Okay. Activision Blizzard. I thought Call of Duty was Electronic Arts. I don't know. You know, I think I got lazy with the cutting and pasting. But Bandai Namco. Yeah, it works. It definitely works. I think just, you know, I got lazy putting in the data. But there it is. There it is. So there's our join, and using another table. So now that we've got these two combo boxes, I know I started this thing off with a plan, but I'm really terrible at sticking to plans. Let me add one more query here, and what I'm going to do is it's going to filter based on rating and publisher. So show me all the Nintendo USA games with a rating of E, and what that will allow us to do, or it'll give us the opportunity to do a query that involves two joins, because what we need now is we're trying to find the software titles using where the publisher is equal to one thing and the platform and the oh no, you know what? Okay, so I need to go implement the platforms table. All right, I'm just going to go do that through the magic of television really quickly, so because you know how that works at this point. So I've added the missing bits that we need to make this work. I've just added a publisher drop or a platform drop down and populated that, and if we run that, you can see that now contains PS4X. So there's our platforms right there. And what I want to do now is when this button is clicked, we're going to select all the games by a publisher for a platform. I mean, I'm going to assume that they've both been selected. If we click this button and these haven't been selected, then things are going to blow up. Or we could do an exception handling, a try catch around it. That would work. That might work too. So let's. And somehow I clobbered the text at the top of the form. Oh well. Okay. All right. So let's write this query: var results equals, and then the first line of the LINQ query is the from st and titles. And now what do I want to do? I want to join to the publishers table, and I want to join to the platform table, and it doesn't matter what order I do those in. So let's join to the publisher table first, and I'll say join, I'll call it pub in publishers, join to the publishers table. And now I have to say what fields do I want to associate. I have to match them up, and we looked at our schema, and we said for the publishers, the titles publisher equals the publisher's ID. So let's go write that. The publishers, on pub.id equals so let's write this query. Var results equals, and now I need my from st and titles like I've had for every other query. from stn titles. All right, now I need to join to the two other tables. It does not matter what order I do the join in. And I'll call it like pub for the publishers table. I'll join to the publishers table first in publishers. And now I have to specify the fields that I'm matching up. And we looked at the schema and we said that the titles publisher has to match the publisher's ID. So let's make that happen on st.publisher. And I'm inside of a join, so I use the equals keyword instead of the double equals. Pub.id, there it is. So match, look at those two tables, match them up on the publishers. And now let's have a second join. Join, I'll call it like PL, like plat for the platforms table. In platforms, so join to that platforms list. And what are the fields that we match up on when we do our join? So the titles platform has to match the platform's ID. Titles platform matches platform's ID. Software titles platform equals, right? It's the word equals because I'm inside of a join, plat.id. There you go. So now I've joined to two different tables. And now I need to have a where clause, and that's going to be it's going to be a compound where clause. So I'm going to have there's going to be an and in here. So I'll have where pub. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to go get the stuff out of the combo boxes. I am just going to make that happen through the magic of TV. So what I've done is I've just pulled the text out of the combo box and put them into some variables here. So now I can compare against them. So where the platform's name, there we go, is equal to the platform name that was selected in the combo box. That's that thing right there. So if the name of the platform matches the platform thing in the combo box, and oh, I guess we have to use the double ampersand, and the publisher name, well, let's say the pub.publisher, the publisher's name is equal to whatever was selected in the combo box, which we stored in pub name. Then finally we can select a new object. Select new, and what do we want to select? Let's select the name from the software titles table. What's it called? This is title, and let's select the name of the publisher. So that's going to be pub.name. And then let's also select the rating. And then let's also select the platform just to make sure that it worked, and that's going to be plat.name. So now you can see we've got a problem because the platform name and the platform table has a name field and the publisher table has a name field. So let's give this field a new name. We'll say publisher equals. And so now what we've done is we've given this field kind of an alias. And I can't even remember what we were trying to do. Platform and publisher, I guess that's right, yeah. So that's a pretty big query right there, but you know, in the database, actually in the database world, that'd be a small query. For me, that's a big query. And then finally, we just want to, I'm going to copy and paste in our line to actually take the results and stick them into the DataGrid view. So there we go. So there's our, we're selecting from the titles, but then we're joining to the other tables that have information that we need, and then we are filtering based on the whatever selected in the combo box, and then we are selecting the title, publisher, and platform name out of that whole that whole pile of data that got aggregated together. So let's run it and see if it works. Now if I do this now, it's going to blow up because publisher and platform have not been set yet. Now let me try to run this by platform and publisher. So it seems to work. So there's no, oh, I guess Nintendo, oh, that's interesting. Doesn't actually, so Call of Duty should not have come up. So let's go take a look at this. But Nintendo, Wii U, that seems to work. Mario Kart's for the Wii U. What if I pick for the Wii? Yeah, I mean, that seems to work. Interesting. So why does it, oh, right. Because when I change the selection, it's pulling up the Call of Duty stuff. So now if I look for Electronic Arts on the Wii U and click the button, it should come up with nothing. So it is working. So there we go. Nintendo USA. So now it pulls out all the Nintendo games. But now if I say click this button, it'll filter out Nintendo games for the Wii U. There we go. So you can see Activision Blizzard for the Wii U should pull out nothing. So it actually does work. Pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff. So we actually covered a lot in that video. So we covered how to use the combo boxes, how to use the data grid view, and then how to write all of those different types of queries, all those LINQ queries, and including ones that have we got 2 joins and a naming collision. So I don't know, very, very powerful. Now in this contrived exercise, we were selecting data from these lists that we populated when the program started. But all of those things that we've been doing before, where we find me all of the text boxes on this form, we could have actually done those using LINQ queries, and we could have because the form has a list of controls, and we could say from C in controls where C.type equals text box select T. We could have pulled out the controls that way. So so there you go. I hope that was useful. Keep this video in the back of your memory, because there may be some final projects or homework assignments that have to do with LINQ, and this is going to teach you. It's going to show you everything you need to know.